go forward, that it's an expensive thing to challenge?
That was part of it. There were a lot of issues involved, so it is expensive. It would be probably about $10,000 just to be able to look at the other ballots and the other parts of the election. From there, it would cost even more to take it to a trial and see what the judge would say. We could have met that, but we had to weigh that against, could that money be better used elsewhere in the future? Along with that were a lot of other concerns about how long it would draw this process out. It gets to be an uglier process, and there's disruption to the community. And then finally, part of my own analysis was looking at the numbers and saying, all right, which precincts are left? How did they split? They were about 50-50, most of them. And even if you could say, oh, we found 20 ballots that were spoiled, 40, 50, whatever, the chance of getting them 12 votes off center starts to get vanishingly small. When you toss a coin over and over, it might be lopsided at first, but it converges to 50-50. So while it's not an unreasonable chance, it was one that was pretty slim, and I didn't think worth all of the investment and risks that would need to be taken.
Do you see yourself collaborating with Mayor Coos in the next 4 years?
I would like to. I think we have some different purposes in mind at this point, but I'm hopeful that we can discuss those things and try and craft some even better policies for the town overall.
Do you plan to run for public office again?
I do.
What, as what?
Certainly I will be running for mayor again at this point. I mean, who knows what can happen in 4 years, but that's my plan. People have asked, will I run for council? I'm not sure at this point.
Do you plan to do anything else in between? Any boards, commissions, anything like that?
At this point, trying to, one, take a little bit of a break first. This has been about a year to the day almost when I started this process, turning this over in my mind and deciding where I was going to go with this. It took several months to decide, and then from there. But in the future, I definitely want to be having more direct conversations with members of the council and some of the surrounding boards as well. Whether or not I actually get involved on one of those boards or commissions, I just haven't really thought about yet at this point.
Was it worth it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I encourage anybody, if they think they want to do this, if they've always thought about it, absolutely get involved, be a part of the process. You know, Cheryl Gaines said something a few months ago at a council meeting that I really appreciated. She says, there's a lot of passion, a lot of discussion. It's because we all care. And there's a lot of people in this community who really do care about what's going on. And the more that get involved, the better it is. We've seen that process over and over again, even in this election cycle.
What about the fact that some council members basically called you a liar, said that you lied during the campaign? Can you work with that council?
I can. I can work with anybody. I will always do my part. As I said in my statement, I think those statements are completely wrong. I will stop short of calling Mr. Fritzen a liar because I think he truly believes those statements. I just really think he's incorrectly interpreted what went on. If anybody wants to look back, see anything that I've said, never was personal, always about issues, always about policy, always about data. I cited as many sources as I could, far more than I saw people around me doing. I showed you trends over time. I showed you where to find the data on your own. Beyond that context, I'm really not sure what you need to provide. I mean, I said these things in forums where Mr. Coos is right beside me to provide as much context as he could. We did the same with the pantograph. So the idea that we lied anywhere in the campaign or deliberately tried to mislead anybody, I completely reject that assertion.
What would you do differently if you could do this whole thing again?
Wear softer shoes. In all seriousness, it really did hurt my ankles after a while being out there. I would have talked to even more voters. We talked to thousands of people. We walked neighborhoods day in and day out. Ron was a big part of that. Loved campaigning with him. But that's where this election, that's where I tried to take it. That's what I wanted to do, is get people engaged. The most direct way to do that was to talk to people directly. There were some folks who suggested, we form a coalition and we talk, we get a whole sort of party going. I said that those are great ideas, but really, we need to be talking to people directly. We need to know what's on their minds. We need to engage them in discussion and see what kind of engagement we can get. So I would engage that more often and earlier.
Do you have any regrets about the approach you took?
No, I'm really proud of our campaign. Again, all the things that we tried to do, we weren't trying to model this on any other campaign. We really were just trying to decide, what is it we want to do? What do we think is the best way to do that? Let's go out and find a way to make it happen. So no regrets in that regard. If I had regrets, this would be a lot harder to take. As I said on election night, I felt like we left it all out there on the court. We ran as hard as we could. And we were proud of our effort, and at the end of the day, we're not ashamed about that. We came really close, didn't quite make it.
When you talk about not ignoring the, nearly 50% of voters who win for you,
Yes.
what would you like to see the town change, or what are the highest priorities that you would have for changes?
Well, I've stated some of those in my campaign, and these are not things that are at odds with what the town has been saying. When we talked about pensions and when we talked about debt levels, those are listed in the town's own work sessions. The pensions are listed as an actual threat. They talk about what's going good, what's a concern, what's a threat. They list pensions and the looming crisis in pensions across the state as a threat. They talk about the debt levels as a concern. Now, we've made some really good efforts on those, but again, as I said, I think we have room to devote even more to them, and that's a question of priority. So I would like to see us try and shift some more in that direction. Any other questions?
That's all I got.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out.